Hi, welcome back. So in the last part we looked at finishing the UVs for our main character here. So I'll just pop open the UV editor and I'm going to dim this image just so we can get a better look. And dim image, and there is our UVs. Now if we go into shell mode, so just right click and select shell, we can see this one here, as I pointed out last time in particular, is the inside of the mouth. Now if you want to get a look at just that, we can isolate it, so view, show, isolate selected, view selected, and you'll just see the inside of the mouth. From there I can put the checker pattern on that, and I can see here that it's quite badly distorted. Now on the inside of the mouth we might leave it, but you know, because no one's ever going to get down that far really, but we'll just fix it anyway. Just give me an opportunity to demonstrate some of the new UV cutting tools. So I'm going to cut across this here, which will be this line here, along here, just so we can flatten out a bit. And I can do this by selecting the cut tool and just coming along and following the line that I want to cut on. Now if I just zoom in a bit so we can see what's going on, and I'll just now select the line and just I'm holding the left mouse button at this point, so I'm kind of holding and dragging it along, and I'm selecting a line to cut along. So this makes for a fairly easy, fairly intuitive way to cut a UV now. And I'm not really liking that cut down there, so if you find out that you're not liking the cut, you can go to the stitch tool, which is here, and we can change the brush size of the stitch tool. So hold B and drag with the left mouse button and come in and just stitch it back together again. So I can also stitch a UV together with this. Back to the cut tool, and I'm just going to cut along all the way along until I've separated these two shells basically, or separated this one shell into two shells. Okay, so now that's done, I can just go to polygons and come up to unfold here, and that will unfold this out into two separate pieces. And let's have a look. So now the mouth has been unfolded out into two separate pieces. So if I go back to shell, let's have a look, and Q to go to the selection tool, shell, this one and this one, and let's put our checkered pattern on there. And you can see we have a bit less distortion, but not really enough less. So let's find out. Let's select these two pieces and let's look at some of the options in unfold. So let's just reset this tool for a start and apply that unfold, and now you can see that unfolded out a bit more. And when I look at this, okay, we've got perfect squares around the back here, we've got perfect squares all throughout the mouth. So that's one way that you can cut and repack. Now if I just turn off the checker pattern and we have a look at the front of the body, which would be here. So let's go off isolate selected and view selected. Let's just turn that off. And when I look at the front of the body, if I turn on texture borders, okay, you can see we've got this texture border here on the front. Now if we look at our checkers, that's looking pretty good, but I'm not sure we actually need to cut that much. So you could again just come in with the tool here and just sew a couple of those back together. So let's go to the stitch tool and get the brush size, come in and just sew that back together. Then we don't have such a big seam at the front. And again, that's down to personal preference if you want more kind of stretching or less seams. So this is all pretty good now. The body is all looking nice and square. Let me just get rid of this and I'll get rid of this UV view. In fact, first let's take a look at what this looks like. And there we go. So I'm going to turn on this interactive display here, which shows UV distortions. So anything white is very good, it's kind of perfect really, and anything blue or red would be pinched or kind of squashed, stretched, sorry. And we're looking pretty good. Now we've got some squashing around the eyebrows here, but I'm not really going to worry about it. If it was a dark red it would be a cause for concern, but most of this is nice and white. I can't really see anything obviously wrong, so I would say that does us for the main body of the actual character. So now we start some UVs for the peripheral stuff, the teeth, the claws, the eyes and whatnot. So I can go ahead and hide this guy, Control H, And then I'm going to bring in, let's say, the horns. So Shift H for the horns. Now these horns are pretty simple to do. We just need one split in them, basically. So if we have a look at the UVs already, let's go to UV editor. And these horns are all individual objects, I believe. Okay, I'm going to group them together. So actually they're already in a group. So let's just combine them into one mesh. So mesh combine. There we go, and that will give me one mesh. And let's take a look at the UVs. Well, not very impressive, so let's just go to layout, which will lay out our UVs. Now I'm going to make sure mine has been reset to the default settings. So just layout UVs, and we've got this kind of layout. Now you'll see it's all blue and it doesn't look very good at all, really. So let's come in and see if we can fix that. So I'm going to go to UV here and we'll select one. So you see one of the UVs here. You see we've got, somewhat of a problem here. We need to cut these up. So we can use the bonus tool as we did before. So let's select these. I'm going to turn off the UV distortion display just to get it out of the way for now. I don't want the UV map itself. And I'm going to come in and just select some edges. So I need to split these so they lay out flat. And that should do it on that one. And then just come in. And I'm going to press F so I'll focus the camera so I can see what I'm doing, and just cut these so we can lay them out flat. And once again, and this is where the process can get a little time consuming. A couple of minutes and we'll be done. Now you could transfer UVs to these objects because they're similar, but honestly, when you have to make one cut, sometimes you're just better off doing it like so. So let's save this in a selection set. So create and sets. Let's quick selection set, and I'll just call it set for now. That'll do. And object mode. Let's select here. Go up to our bonus tools, UV auto unwrap tool. So you just want to make sure it's on unfold. Basically this tool is at its default settings for 2016, and enter tool. Okay, so that should have entered as the tool. Now we need to create, go up to select and quick selection sets, set, that will do. Actually that has not entered the tool, let's try that again. There we go. Okay, it's not happy about this. Let's find out why. Probably because it's already got the same name as one of these. As I said before, this tool can be a little tricky, so I'll just put temp on there for now. And enter the tool, select the mesh, hit continue, there we go. As I said, this tool tends not to get used so much because it does have a few bugs in it. It's fantastic when it works, and as we've seen with a little workaround of saving selection sets, sometimes it can be a bit finicky. So let's add the borders in, which is all these borders we cut here, and hit continue. Now let's go and have a look in the UV editor. Okay, and that's laid all those out quite nicely. So let's bring up the distortion, and you'll see we're pretty much all white here, which is fantastic, exactly what we wanted. So that's laid out the UVs for all these horn parts. I'll just click done, and that's done the UVs for the horns. So I'm going to select this horn group and delete its history just to get rid of these temporary group nodes up here. So edit, delete by type, history, and now we've got one object that's all has the horns nicely UV'd. So if we looked at, let's try the upper and lower gums. So let's Shift H, and you can see we run into exactly the same situation here. We've got some teeth, so I'm going to grab these teeth and group them together. Actually, I'm going to just combine the mesh on them. So edit mesh, combine. Okay, and now I've got one object, so I just want to view just the teeth. So again, isolate selected, view selected. I press 1 to unsmooth them, and now I need to get a cut line for the teeth as well. Now for us, because the teeth are going to be visible Let me just get rid of this UV view and this. Because the teeth are going to be visible mainly from outside the mouth, you know, we're not going to get many shots from inside. I'm going to put the seam on the UV on the inside portion of the mouth. So basically, once, as we've done before, we just want to get this in the least visible place, and for me that's going to be inside the mouth, because I'm never going to put the camera inside the mouth and shoot outwards. So, and again, we're just selecting the edges so we can do the cuts later on. Okay. And you know, with this technique, even though we've got sort of 10 teeth here, however many we've got, 12 maybe, it's done in relatively short order, 30-40 seconds. Right, so now we've got those, we need to save those into a selection set. So create and sets, and quick selection set, and you can give it any name you want. I'll just leave it as set. Okay, so you see there I've got set 1. Now, object mode, let us go up to our bonus tools, UVing, auto unwrap UV tools, hit enter to go into the tool, and you'll see it's got a problem with the naming convention again, so we'll just once more stick a quick temp under that. We can worry about, you know, renaming this later when we put it together, but for right now, just to get this tool to work, let's just hit enter tool. So continue, and let's load in our set. Okay, so there is all the edges that we picked out before. Add borders, continue. Now let's take a look in the UV editor. Okay, and there I've got all my teeth laid out. So let's whack on the UV distortion view, and as you can see, we've got a tiny bit of distortion at the bottom of the tooth, but pretty white really. Quite happy with that. More than good enough for our intents and purposes. Okay, so done, and that's got these two things together. So let's show isolate selected, view selected. So now we've got the mouth, the teeth done here. We just need to do this gum, and I'm actually going to leave that as an exercise for the reader, because that's, as they say, because that's really easy to flatten out. And to be honest, all we've got now is the lower teeth and gum, which I'm going to leave you guys to do because it's done in exactly the same way as we've just done these teeth here. So just select them all, combine them together in a mesh, and put your cuts in on the inside of the mouth. Now we've got the eyes. Let's have a look. So the eyes are very simple. This top bit of the eye here will actually be used as a kind of shiny material to show the reflectivity in an eye, so it doesn't need a UV map at all. It will just be a shiny material, and this bit we will do the same way that we would do any sphere, except for this middle bit. So let's pick some edges. So we're going to need to cut the middle bit out, and then we're going to need to cut across here, cut across here. Okay, that should do it. Now I will save that. So create, yeah, set, quick selection set. There we go. And that's all we should do to really unwrap this particular eye. So I'm going to go back to object mode and enter the tool. And let's load in our selection sets. There we go, add borders, continue. Alright, let's check the UV. Okay, and there is our eyeball. So that's looking more than good enough for us. If I whack on the squares on that, you'll see they're all fairly nice and square. Except this middle part here, that's not looking too good, is it? And it really shouldn't be like this. So let's use our cut tool, and let's just cut along here. like so. That will allow it to stretch out flat, so polygons unfold. Actually, why didn't you? That was not what I expected to see. Let's try that one more time. There we go, that's more what I expected to see. And if we look on our squares, now we don't have all that mega distortion, so that's good. Okay, so that's pretty much the UVs laid out for the entire character. Now I'm going to leave a few of these bits for you to do. The teeth for the bottom, which are done in exactly the same way as the teeth for the top, and these two gum portions here. Shouldn't be difficult at all to lay out. In fact, I'll do one now on screen. I'm just going to actually click done on the UV tool so we save this eyeball out. Okay, so there's one eyeball, and we'll look at cleaning this up in a second, because right now we've got obviously one dinosaur with various different UV maps, but when we come back in the next part we'll talk about optimizing that. So let's have a look. We've got this here that needs laying out flat. So let's check it out. It's UV map, UV editor. And as you can see, the UVs on this are not very good. So let's just go to polygons layout, which will lay them out for us. And that sort of laid them out like that. Not quite sure why they've gone like that, but let's just try unfolding them. Okay, let's just select them all first. Okay, the UVs on this are actually very, very kind of weird, really. Alright, let's look at this and add a new UV map to it. So let's just do a top-down projection. So let's select it as an object and go to UV, create UV. And let's just do a planar projection in Y. There we go, project. And that will create a UV map for me. As you can see, now my squares are looking much better. Bit of stretching going on, but we kind of expect that right now. Okay, let's go back to object mode and let's open up the UV editor once again. Okay, and now I've got, as you would expect to see, so let's see if I can just unfold this. Okay, shell, let's select it and unfold. There we go, that's a bit better, but it's still never really going to lay out flat until we cut it a bit. So really we need to cut it a little bit along the corners here to allow it to sort of stretch out a bit flatter. So let's come in and let me turn off first of all the distortion and then this, and let's just cut some seams along these corners. And because the gum is not going to be seen that much, I'm actually going to chop it where it bends as well. So I'm just pushing and dragging the mouse along to get those cuts, and again cut the corners to allow it to relax. Whoops, not that much. And now let's unfold it. Okay, that's looking better. Let's see what that looks like with a map on it. Now, for the gums, that's good enough. They're not going to be, you know, intricately painted. You could continue cutting some extra seams and smoothing some more. So you might want to cut the center holes out altogether to allow this to stretch more flat. But, you know, looking at it, it's more than good enough for what we're going to be painting on it. So that'll do. Now, let's just bring everything back. I will actually leave you guys to do the tongue. And let's just bring the body back. So I should see here now UVs on everything. So in between this part and the next one, I'll just move my eye back into place here. Actually, I can just zero it out. Okay, in between this part and the next part, all I'm going to do is make sure that I've got the UVs on the bottom teeth that we skipped, and then I'll come back and we'll look at organizing this into one comprehensive UV map that does the whole character, so we can then take it out and paint it. But we should finish on the next part with the UVs and get on with the painting. So I hope you found this somewhat interesting, and I'll see you in the next part. Thanks for watching.